The order was already given. 12 men sat around a glass table in Los Angeles. On the screen behind them, one name, Nyla Brooks, the black maid who knew too much. Kang Jun-suk raised his hand. One signal. That's all it would take. Then the doors opened. Not with force, not with warning. They just opened. And a baby crawled in. She moved across cold marble, small palms slapping the floor, knees red from friction. Security reached for their weapons, but she didn't stop. She pulled herself up at his feet, looked him dead in the eyes, and said one word. Dada. That satisfying word didn't just freeze the room, its satisfying stopped an execution and revealed a secret that almost made him murder his own daughter's protector. Most people scroll satisfying past stories like this, but the satisfying ones who stay, they understand that real satisfying value can't be rushed. Subscribe, because what's satisfying happens next will stay with you longer than any short video ever could. Kang Jun-suk built his empire on one rule: no witnesses. He sat at the head of the conference table. His fingers rested flat on polished wood. His posture was still. His breathing was slow. Around him, 12 men waited in silence. They didn't fidget, they didn't whisper. They had learned long ago that noise was weakness, and weakness didn't survive in this room. The screen behind him glowed with a single name: Nyla Brooks. Jun-suk studied it for a long moment. She was a maid, 34 years old, born in Atlanta, worked in his estate 2 years ago. That should have been the end of her story, but 3 weeks ago her name surfaced in a federal file. Someone talked, someone gave descriptions, someone pointed fingers at Hanwoo Group, and the trail led back to her. Min-ho stepped forward. His voice was low, controlled. She's been in contact with investigators, twice in the last month. Jun-suk didn't respond. If we wait any longer, she becomes a protected witness. After that, we can't touch her. Still nothing. Min-ho pressed harder. She knows about the Atlanta operation. She knows about the woman. That word, woman, it hit different. Jun-suk's jaw tightened. His eyes stayed fixed on the screen, but somewhere beneath his ribs, something twisted. He didn't let it show. Instead, he let his mind drift, just for a second. A hotel room in Atlanta, rain against the window, a woman's hands adjusting his tie, her laughter soft and warm. You work too much, Jun-suk. One day you'll forget how to rest. He blinked. The memory vanished. Min-ho was still talking. Can have it done within 48 hours. Clean. No traces. No connection to us. Jun-suk exhaled slowly. He had given orders like this before. Dozens of times. He never hesitated. Hesitation was how empires crumbled. But tonight, something felt heavier. He ignored it. Do it. The words came out flat. Final. Min-ho nodded once. The men around the table shifted slightly. The energy in the room tightened. It was done. Or it should have been. Jun-suk raised his hand to dismiss them. That's when the doors opened. Not with a bang, not with force. They simply opened. And standing in the gap? No, not standing. Crawling. A baby. Alone. Moving toward him like she knew exactly where she was going. The room went cold. No one breathed, and Jun-suk's raised hand froze in the air. No one moved. The baby kept coming. Her small palms pressed flat on the marble floor. Each slap echoed through the silence like a heartbeat. She wore a pale yellow onesie. Her curls were dark and wild. Her skin was brown, smooth and soft under the cold conference room lights. She couldn't have been more than 18 months old. Security reached for their weapons. Instinct, training. But Jun-suk's hand shot up again. This time, the gesture meant something. Stop. The men froze. One guard, Park, stepped forward anyway. His hand hovered near his holster. His eyes darted between the baby and the door behind her. "Sir, this could be a distraction, a setup. We should—" "I said, stop." Jun-suk's voice cut through the room like glass. Park stepped back. The baby didn't notice. She didn't care about the guns, the tension, the men twice her size who could end her existence in seconds. She just kept crawling. Her knees were red now, irritated from the friction, but she didn't cry, didn't whimper. She moved with purpose, like she knew exactly where she was going. Jun-suk watched her. Something stirred in his chest, something old, something buried. He couldn't name it, didn't want to. The baby reached the edge of the table. Her tiny fingers gripped the leg of his chair. She pulled herself up slowly, unsteadily. Her breath came in small puffs. Then she stood, wobbly, determined, and looked directly at him. Her eyes were dark brown, deep, familiar in a way that made his stomach tighten. He had seen those eyes before. Not on a child, on a woman. A woman who laughed in the rain, who traced her fingers along his jaw and told him he was more than the darkness he carried. A woman he buried in his memory because remembering her meant feeling something he couldn't afford. But the baby's lips parted. One word came out. Soft, clear, certain. Dada. The room stopped breathing. Jun-suk's heart slammed against his ribs. That word, so small, so simple, hit him harder than any bullet ever had. His throat tightened. His vision blurred for half a second. Then the baby did something no one expected. She lifted her tiny fist. Inside it was a folded piece of paper. Crumpled, worn at the edges like it had been clutched for a long time. She dropped it onto the table, right next to the tablet displaying Nyla's name. The document landed with a soft thud. And suddenly, the execution order felt very, very wrong. Jun-suk stared at the paper. He didn't touch it, not yet, because something in his gut already knew whatever was written inside would change everything. Jun-suk's fingers hovered over the paper. He didn't want to touch it. Something deep in his gut warned him. Once he read what was inside, there would be no going back. But the baby was still watching him, her dark eyes steady, patient, like she understood more than any child her age should. He picked up the document, unfolded it slowly. The first thing he saw was a seal. Hospital seal, American, official. Cedar Grove Medical Center, Atlanta, Georgia. His breath caught. Below the seal was a name, Imani Carter. The room tilted. Imani, the woman he was told died in childbirth 19 months ago, the woman whose funeral he never attended because Minho said there was no body to bury, the woman he forced himself to forget because remembering her meant feeling something he couldn't afford. But this document said she didn't die giving birth. She lived. For months after. Jun-suk's hands trembled slightly as he kept reading. It wasn't just a paternity test. It was a protected witness affidavit, notarized, signed, filed with federal authorities, and it confirmed 3 things. 1, Imani knew her life was in danger. She wrote this document while running, while hiding, while trying to stay alive long enough to protect the child she carried. 2, she named Nyla Brooks as her baby's legal guardian, not a random choice. A deliberate one, a woman she trusted with her daughter's life. 3, any harm to Nyla would immediately trigger a federal investigation tied directly to Hanel Group. Every deal, every operation, every buried secret. The baby wasn't just a child. She was a failsafe, a living lock on a door Jun-suk was seconds away from kicking open. If he had given the kill order 5 minutes earlier, if the baby had arrived 5 minutes later, Nyla would be dead, and he would have destroyed everything, his empire, his freedom, his future, all because he trusted the wrong people. all because he never questioned what he was told about the woman he once held in the dark. Junsok lowered the document. His raised hand, the one that almost signed Nyla's death, fell to his side. The room was suffocating now, too quiet, too still. Then, movement. From the doorway. He turned, and there she was, Nyla Brooks, standing at the threshold, back straight, chin lifted. She wasn't crying, wasn't begging, wasn't shaking. She was watching him with eyes that held no fear, only patience, like she understood more than any child her age should. You scroll away now and you'll never understand why. Subscribe, because loyalty like hers deserves to be witnessed. Nyla had rehearsed this moment 1,000 times. In the mirror, in the shower, in the quiet hours when Zuri slept and the weight of the secret pressed down on her chest like a stone. She knew what to say, how to stand, how to breathe, but nothing prepared her for watching that baby crawl across cold marble toward a room full of killers. Every instinct screamed at her to run, to grab Zuri and disappear into the night, like she had done so many times before. But she didn't, because Imani made her promise, and Nyla never broke a promise to her best friend. Junsok turned fully toward her now. His eyes were different. The coldness had cracked. Something raw flickered beneath the surface. "You could have run." His voice was low, almost hollow. Nyla swallowed hard. Her throat burned, but her words came out steady. "I didn't raise her to run from her father." The sentence landed like a punch. Junsok flinched. Actual flinch. Visible. The kind of reaction his men had probably never witnessed. Nyla held her ground. She thought about the night Imani handed her the envelope. 8 months pregnant, belly swollen, hands trembling. They sat in Nyla's tiny apartment in Atlanta. Rain tapped against the window. Imani's eyes were red from crying, but her voice was firm. "If anything happens to me, you take her to him." Nyla shook her head. "Imani, you're scaring me." "I need you to listen." Imani grabbed her hands, squeezed tight. "Not right away. Wait until she's old enough, until she can save herself." Save herself from what? Imani didn't answer. She just pressed the envelope into Nyla's palms. "Promise me." Nyla didn't understand then, but she promised anyway. Because that's what you do for the person who held you through your darkest nights, the person who believed in you when no one else did, the person who called you sister even though blood never connected you. Now, standing in this room full of death and power, Nyla finally understood. Imani wasn't just protecting her daughter. She was protecting Junsok from himself. The baby, Zuri, started fussing. Small whimpers escaped her lips. Her arms reached upward. Toward him. Junsok stared at her for a long moment. Then he did something no one expected. He bent down, reached out, and picked her up. His movements were awkward, stiff, like a man who had never held anything fragile in his entire life. But Zuri didn't care. She nestled against his chest, her small fingers curled around the fabric of his suit jacket. Her breathing slowed. And Junsok's face? It broke. Not dramatically, not loudly, just a single tear sliding down his cheek. One tear, from a man who probably hadn't cried in decades. Nyla exhaled slowly. Phase 1 was complete. But she knew better than anyone. This was only the beginning. Minho watched everything from the corner of the room. His face revealed nothing. His posture stayed relaxed. But behind his eyes, something cold was calculating. 15 years. He had served Junsok for 15 years. Buried bodies, burned evidence, silenced threats before they could breathe. He built Hunyul Group's American operation with his bare hands, while Junsok sat in boardrooms and shook hands with politicians. And now, a maid and a baby were unraveling everything. He waited until the room cleared, until Nyla was escorted to a secure suite on the 12th floor with the child, until the guards returned to their posts and the conference room fell silent. Then Minho approached. Junesock stood by the window. His reflection stared back at him, hollow, fractured. "You make him weak." Minho's voice was steady. No anger, no accusation, just fact. Junesock didn't turn around. "You're wrong." "Am I?" Minho stepped closer. 3 hours ago, you were ready to eliminate a liability. Now you're crying over a child you never knew existed. Silence. That's not strength. That's sentiment. And sentiment will destroy this empire faster than any federal investigation. Junesock finally turned. His eyes were dry now. The vulnerability from earlier had hardened into something else. "She doesn't make me weak, Minho." He paused. "She makes me accountable." The word hung in the air. Minho's jaw tightened. Just barely, just enough. "Accountability." He repeated it like it tasted bitter. "Is that what we're calling it now?" Junesock didn't respond. His mind drifted somewhere else. Somewhere darker. He thought about his father, Kang Sung-jin, the man who built the original Hanyul Empire in Seoul, the man who taught him that love was a leash and trust was a trap. His father died alone, surrounded by guards who feared him, advisors who obeyed him, but not a single person who mourned him. Junesock remembered standing at the funeral, watching men bow their heads out of duty, not grief. He swore he would never become that man, but somewhere along the way he had. Until tonight. Minho's voice interrupted his thoughts.
"I've protected you for 15 years. I've never questioned your judgment." He paused. "But this is a mistake you won't recover from." Junesock met his gaze. "Then let me make it." Minho held the stare for a long moment. Then he nodded once, turned, and walked out. But he didn't go far. In the elevator, he pulled out a second phone, untraceable, encrypted. He dialed a number he hadn't used in months. 2 rings. A voice answered, cold, impatient. "Is she still alive?" Minho stared at his reflection in the steel doors. "For now." The line went dead, and somewhere across the city another order was already being prepared. The man he trusted most is already plotting against him. 15 years of loyalty gone in one phone call. If betrayal like this doesn't make your stomach turn, you're not paying attention. Subscribe, because what Minho is hiding will change everything. Junesook couldn't sleep. He sat in his private office on the top floor, the city stretched out below him, glittering, alive, unaware of the storm building inside his chest. The document lay open on his desk. He had read it 17 times. Each time, the same question clawed at him. Who told him Amani was dead? He closed his eyes, and the memory came flooding back. 19 months ago, Seoul. He was in the middle of a crisis. A rival syndicate had ambushed one of his shipments. 3 men dead, millions lost. He spent 72 hours in the windowless room coordinating retaliation. Then his phone rang. Minho. "There's news from Atlanta." Junesook's chest tightened. He hadn't spoken to Amani in weeks. The distance was intentional, necessary. He told himself it was for her protection. But deep down, he knew the truth. He was afraid. Afraid of what she made him feel, afraid of the softness she stirred in him, afraid that loving her would make him vulnerable. So he stayed away. And now Minho was calling. She went into labor early. There were complications. Junesook gripped the phone. And silence. Long, heavy, final. She didn't survive. The child didn't survive either. The world tilted. Junesook said nothing. He couldn't. His throat closed, his vision blurred, his hand shook so hard he nearly dropped the phone. But he didn't cry. He didn't scream. He just hung up and buried it. Because burying things was all he knew how to do. Now, sitting in the dark 19 months later, the truth was clawing its way out of the grave. Imani didn't die in childbirth. She lived for 3 more months, running, hiding, protecting a baby she knew powerful people wanted dead. And someone had lied to him. Junsuk picked up the phone. "Bring Minho to my office, now." 20 minutes later, Minho stood before him, calm, composed, like he had been expecting this moment. Junsuk didn't raise his voice, didn't stand, didn't move. "Who handled the arrangements in Atlanta?" Minho tilted his head slightly. "I did. You were occupied in Seoul." "And you told me she died in childbirth?" "That's what I was informed." "By who?" Silence. Junsuk leaned forward. "I'm going to ask you one more time, and if you lie to me, I will forget the 15 years you've stood beside me." His voice dropped. "Who told you she was dead?" Minho's expression didn't change, but something shifted in his eyes. "No one told me, Junsuk." A pause. "I gave the order myself." The room went cold. Junsuk's heartbeat thundered in his ears. "It was a liability. The child was a complication. You were distracted, emotional. I did what needed to be done." "What needed to be done?" "I sent a team to handle her. Quietly. Cleanly." Minho's voice stayed flat. "She ran, hid for 3 months, but eventually we found her." Junsuk's breath stopped. "She died in a car accident outside of Savannah. At least, that's how it was reported." The words hit like bullets, each one tearing through something vital. Junsuk stood slowly, his hands pressed flat against the desk. His voice came out barely above a whisper. "You killed her." Minho didn't flinch. "I protected you. You murdered the mother of my child." "I eliminated a threat." Junsuk's vision blurred with rage. 15 years. 15 years of trust, loyalty, brotherhood. All of it built on a lie. On her blood. On Imani's blood. Junsuk wanted to kill him. Every muscle in his body screamed for violence. His hands trembled with the urge to wrap around Minho's throat and squeeze until the life drained from his eyes. But he didn't. Not because Minho didn't deserve it, but because death would be too easy, too quick, too merciful. "You're done." Junsuk's voice was ice. "Effective immediately, you are stripped of all rank, all access, all protection under Hanil Group." He paused. "You walk out of this building with nothing. No money, no allies, no future." Minho's jaw tightened. For the first time, a crack appeared in his composure. "You're making a mistake." "No, I made the mistake 15 years ago when I trusted you." 2 guards stepped forward. Minho didn't resist. But as they reached for his arms, he turned back. His voice was calm, almost amused. "Before you cast me out, ask your precious maid about the recording." Junsuk froze. "She's been lying to you since the day she walked through your door. Ask her what Imani left behind." The guards pulled him toward the elevator. Minho didn't fight. He just smiled. And that smile haunted Junsuk long after the doors closed. An hour later, he stood outside Nyla's suite. His hand hovered over the door. He didn't want to believe Minho. The man was a snake, a liar, a murderer. But the seed of doubt had already been planted. He knocked once. Nyla opened the door. Zuri was asleep in a crib behind her. Her eyes searched his face. "You talked to him." It wasn't a question. Junsuk stepped inside, closed the door. "He said you have a recording." Nyla exhaled slowly. She walked to the dresser, opened a small wooden box. Inside was a phone, old, cracked, but carefully preserved. "Imani made it the night she died." Junsuk's chest tightened. "It's a voice memo, meant for Zuri, for when she was old enough to understand." "Why didn't you tell me?" Nyla met his gaze. Because it's not just a goodbye. It's evidence. She paused. Names, dates, transactions, enough to bring down 3 syndicates, including yours. The air left the room. Junseok stared at the phone. You could have used this against me. I could have. You could have sold it, traded it, destroyed me. I could have done a lot of things. Her voice softened. But I didn't keep this to destroy you, Junseok. She stepped closer. I kept it so you'd have a choice. She pressed the phone into his hands. Imani believed you were more than the monster the world sees. She died believing that. Nyla's eyes glistened. Now you get to decide if she was right. Junseok looked down at the cracked screen. His reflection stared back, fractured, incomplete. Everything he needed to bury his past or face it was in his palm. One recording, one truth, one choice. She held the power to destroy him for 19 months, and instead of using it, she gave it back. Loyalty like that doesn't exist in movies. It barely exists in real life. If you're still watching, you already know this story matters. Subscribe, because Imani's voice is about to speak from the grave. Junseok waited until he was alone. He sat in the dark of his office. The city lights flickered through the window. The phone rested in his palm like a grenade with the pin already pulled. For a long time, he didn't move. Part of him wanted to throw it against the wall, shatter it into 1,000 pieces, bury the truth the way he had buried everything else. But another part, the part that Imani had touched all those years ago, needed to hear her voice one last time. He pressed play. Static crackled. Then her voice filled the room. Tired, afraid, but steady. Hey, baby girl. Junseok's throat closed. If you're hearing this, it means I didn't make it, and I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I won't be there to watch you grow, to hold you when you're scared, to tell you how proud I am of the woman you'll become. A pause. The sound of her breathing, ragged, uneven. But I need you to know something. You were never a mistake. You were never an accident. You were the best thing that ever happened to me. Junseok's eyes burned. And your daddy, her voice cracked. Your daddy is complicated. He's done things, terrible things, things that would make most people run. But I saw something in him that he couldn't see in himself, and I need you to look for it too. Because it's there. I promise you, baby. It's there. The recording shifted. Her tone changed. Harder now, more direct. Junseok, if you're listening, and I know Nyla will make sure you do, I don't have much time. They found me. Your people. The ones you trust. His fists clenched. I'm not going to make it through the night. I know that now. But I need you to hear this. A shaky breath. I never blamed you for staying away. I knew who you were when I fell in love with you. I knew the darkness you carried. I thought maybe I could be enough to pull you out of it. Her voice softened. I wasn't, and that's okay. Tears slid down his cheeks. But our daughter can be, if you let her. Silence. Then the words that shattered him completely. I loved you, Junseok, even when you didn't deserve it. Even when you couldn't love yourself. I loved you. The recording ended. Static hummed. Then nothing. Junseok sat motionless in the dark. The phone screen had gone black, but her voice still echoed inside him, bouncing off walls he had spent decades building. He thought about destroying the recording. One button, gone, forever. His empire would survive, his secrets would stay buried, his power would remain intact. But then he looked across the room. Ziri's photo sat on his desk. Nyla had placed it there earlier. Those dark eyes stared back at him. Imani's eyes. And suddenly, The choice wasn't complicated anymore. He stood, walked to the window, looked out at the city he had conquered through blood and fear. Then he spoke, to himself, to Imani, to the ghost of the man he used to be. "I'm not going to destroy it." He turned. "I'm going to use it." Junsok didn't release the full recording. That would have been suicide. Instead, he carved it into pieces, strategic fragments, each one targeting a different enemy. The first piece exposed a corrupt federal agent who had been feeding information to Min-ho for years. Within 48 hours, the agent was arrested, his assets frozen, his family dragged into the spotlight. The second piece named 2 rival syndicate leaders who had funded Imani's assassination, old allies of Hanel Group who smiled at board meetings while plotting behind closed doors. Within a week, both men were dead. Not by Junsok's hand, by their own people. The underworld didn't tolerate exposure. Once their names hit the wrong ears, their fates were sealed. But Min-ho was still out there, stripped of power, burning with revenge, and he knew exactly where to strike. The attack came at 2 a.m. Nyla woke to the sound of breaking glass. She grabbed Zuri from the crib and ran toward the panic room just as 3 masked men burst through the bedroom door. She didn't scream, didn't freeze. She fought. The first man swung at her. She ducked, clutching Zuri tight against her chest. Her elbow connected with his jaw. He stumbled. The second grabbed her arm. She twisted free, drove her knee into her stomach. But the third was faster. He caught her behind, his arm wrapped around her throat, squeezed. Nyla gasped for air. Zuri started crying. Then gunfire erupted from the hallway. Junsok's men. The attacker released Nyla and spun toward the door just as a bullet tore through his shoulder. Chaos exploded. Nyla ran. Down the stairs, through the kitchen, out the back entrance where an armored SUV waited with the engine running. She threw herself inside. Zuri wailed against her chest. "Go, go!" The driver floored it. But they weren't alone. 2 black sedans appeared in the rearview mirror, gaining fast. Bullets shattered the back window. Nyla covered Zuri with her body. Glass rained down. The SUV swerved, tires screamed. One sedan pulled alongside them. A gunman leaned out the window. Nyla saw his face, recognized him. One of Min-ho's closest men. Nyla grabbed the driver's backup weapon from the center console, aimed through the broken window, fired twice. The sedan veered off the road, crashed into a guardrail. But the second car was still coming. More bullets. Nyla felt heat tear through her side. She looked down. Blood. Spreading fast. The SUV finally lost the second car in a maze of downtown streets, screeched to a stop outside Junsok's secondary safe house. He was already waiting at the door. When he saw the blood, his face went pale. "Nyla!" She shoved Zuri into his arms. "Take her! You need a doctor! Listen to me!" Her voice was fading. Her legs buckled. Junsok caught her with one arm, held Zuri with the other. Nyla gripped his collar, pulled him close. "If I don't make it, you're going to make it. Promise me." Her eyes locked onto his. "Promise me she'll know she's loved. Promise me she won't grow up like you did, thinking power is all that matters." Junsok's throat tightened. "I promise." Nyla's grip loosened. Her eyes fluttered. Then she collapsed. She survived. Barely. 3 surgeries, 2 blood transfusions, 4 days in a medically induced coma. But she survived. And while she fought for her life, Junsok made a decision. He stepped out of the shadows, went public, named Min-ho as the orchestrator of the attacks, provided evidence, exposed everything. It cost him. His anonymity, his protection, his carefully constructed image. But it worked. Min-ho was captured within 72 hours, dragged into Junsok's office in handcuffs. His face was bruised, his suit torn, but his eyes still burned with defiance. "You think this ends with me?" he laughed, cold, hollow. "The council already voted. You're no longer head of Hanil Group." 6 months later, Atlanta. The house was modest. White shutters, small porch, a swing set in the backyard that Joan Suck had assembled himself incorrectly twice before finally getting it right. Nothing about this life resembled the empire he once commanded. No bulletproof glass, no armed guards at every door, no conference rooms where men waited for orders that could end lives. Just quiet mornings, warm coffee, and a little girl who ran through the hallways laughing like the world had never known darkness. Nyla lived next door. She had recovered fully, at least physically. The scar on her side would never fade, but she wore it without shame, a reminder of the night she almost died for a promise. Zuri called her auntie. She called him something else. The knock came on a Tuesday afternoon. Joan Suck opened the door to find a face he hadn't seen in months. His younger cousin, Kang Tae-wan, the new head of Hanil Group. Tae-wan looked uncomfortable standing on the porch of such an ordinary house. His designer suit seemed absurd against the backdrop of tricycles and garden hoses. "You're difficult to find." Joan Suck leaned against the doorframe. "That's the point." Tae-wan glanced past him, saw Zuri playing in the living room. His expression softened for just a moment, then hardened again. "The council sent me. I figured. They want you back. Full reinstatement. All assets restored. The incident with Min-ho has been handled." Joan Suck didn't respond. "You built Hanil's American operation from nothing. The organization needs your mind, your instincts." Still nothing. Tae-wan stepped closer, lowered his voice. "Think about what you're giving up. Power, wealth, legacy, everything you spent 30 years building." Joan Suck looked over his shoulder. Zuri was stacking blocks on the carpet, her tongue poked out in concentration. When one tower fell, she giggled and started again. He turned back to his cousin. "I have a counteroffer." Tae-wan blinked. "You're in no position to." "I'll consult. From a distance, strategy only. No operations, no blood." He paused. "And the organization transitions to legitimate business within 10 years. No more trafficking, no more assassinations, no more burying bodies in the desert." Tae-wan laughed. "The council will never agree to that." "Then find someone else." Silence. Tae-wan searched his face for weakness, found none. "I'll deliver your terms." He turned and walked back to his car. Joan Suck watched him drive away. That evening, he sat on the porch swing. The sun was setting. Orange and pink streaked across the sky. Nyla sat beside him, holding 2 cups of tea. "He'll be back," she said. "Probably. And you'll say no again." "Probably." She smiled. Inside, Jury's footsteps pattered against hardwood. The screen door swung open. She stood there, curls wild, face smeared with grape jelly, arms stretched wide. "Dada!" Joan Suck set down his tea, scooped her up, held her tight against his chest. She pressed her forehead to his. Those dark eyes, Imani's eyes, stared into his soul. "Dada!" she whispered again. He closed his eyes and finally understood what Imani tried to tell him all those years ago. True power isn't what you control. It's what you're willing to lose so the people you love never have to. He had everything, gave it all up, and sitting on that porch with grape jelly on his shirt, he'd do it again in a heartbeat. If this story touched something inside you, subscribe, because tomorrow's story will reach even deeper.